Here you go, babe. Listen up.
Thank you.
Listen up.
Given the immense destructiveness and I think stupidity of the carbon tax and those who propose them, and the seeming absurdity that you could ever be revenue neutral, it seems to me that the purpose is more socialist engineering than revenue neutrality or revenue at all. So I don't know what you think of that.
I'm assuming that's not a question for Drew. On the carbon tax, obviously, for those that don't know in the room, I was one of the prime sponsors, tried to help to pass the governor's tax. So we can differ. I never get into a climate change debate with people that differ on this issue. So if you don't believe climate change is real, I'm not going to convince you otherwise, and you're not going to convince me otherwise. So put that argument aside. But if you look at our state, I'll give you an economic argument. So, we have to tap the emergency reserve fund every year because of wildfires that you may or not believe that are, is due to climate change. But that affects agriculture, that affects timber, that affects serious problems in the most trade-dependent state in the nation. And most of those are in Republican counties. We have to invest in those things in forest health. There was a bill that was the Joe Kretz bill and the Brad Hawkins bill, two Republicans, both chambers. They passed a forest health bill a couple of years ago, which was the best practices about how DNR goes around forest health. Well, guess what? We didn't fund it. Talking about unfunded mandates for counties, you have to fund that from somewhere. So where do you want to get that money? That money's got to go in there. We have massive drought problems, again, mostly in Republican areas. We have, agriculture issues with drought. That's, again, Republican areas. We have to invest in capital infrastructure and jobs to do that. And then also, if you don't care about, the emissions in our state, that's fine. But 50% of our emissions, we have the second cleanest electric sector of any state in the nation next to Vermont because we have clean hydro. So they have nuclear, we have hydro. So when TransAlta goes down, the one coal plant that we have in 2025, the emissions sector from our electric grid is going to be around 9%. So we actually don't have an electric sector problem, but almost 50% of our emissions in the state come from on-road diesel and gas. So if we don't take our silver bullet, which is clean hydro, and use that to fix the transportation problem, then we're not being serious about our issue. But one way to look at the carbon issue is that I personally think it's going to pass no matter what at some point in the near future. If it's not this year, it'll be 2020. The carbon neutral version of carbon law that was on the ballot in 2016 was unfortunately not a good test case to hang your hat on. It was opposed by every business group. It was opposed by every environmental group. It was opposed by every labor group. It was not well funded. It had an $800 million fiscal hole in the budget. It was not a good test case, and it still got 41%. And that was before Trump, that was before the Paris Accords, and that was before the EPA decisions over the last several years. Now it's going to be on the ballot, and this is going to be the first time in the state at a statewide level that people have an opportunity to register their disgust with Trump. I think it's going to pass, and if it doesn't pass this year, it's going to pass in 2020 as a re-election bid. So we tried to take a legislative approach this year that was a more thoughtful, nuanced solution that takes care of business and doesn't hurt the most trade-dependent state in the nation while also dealing with these issues. But it didn't pass. We came up one vote short in the Senate. So now it's going to be on the ballot, and we're going to see where that goes.
All right. Well,